Thank you, everybody, for joining this afternoon's session for Powering Wentworth to Net Zero, our climate summit. And I have to say a huge thank you to everyone who's come today, talked to the stallholders, and just about the enormous, just all the innovation and the community spirit about taking real action on climate change. You guys are so inspiring, and it's just delightful to have you all here today. For those who weren't here this morning, I was saying this was really inspired by kids at Montessori East who asked me, what can I do about climate change? This is one of some, I think there were probably 9 or 10-year-olds who asked me that question. And I thought it was a great question. And so what we're trying to do through this summit is help give practical answers to the question of what can we individually do to make a real difference in terms of climate change, but also what we as a community and as different levels of government working together to make a real difference in climate change, what can we do? So we've been, in the background working with the councils, with the state members and myself to try and align different levels of government in terms of climate action. And please make sure that you go to the back of the room. I think it's, so we've got 2 places where you can tell us what you want, what you believe Wentworth can do, and as well as what you would like your government representatives to do. And they're on the table at the back of the room. So please make sure you write down what you think is most important. So this afternoon's panel discussion is really about getting local people here to tell you about what they're doing in terms of climate action, and then to give you a chance to ask questions. And they are an incredible group of people. So let me start. I'm going to start with Ali Torres, who is the Senior Sustainability Engagement Officer at Waverley Council. She leads a sustainability leadership program to ensure environmental and circular outcomes of the council's culture, policy and operation, and works collaboratively with local organisations to implement environmental projects throughout a collective impact framework. So she's going to tell us about this area, what are the sorts of emissions we have, where are the big areas of emissions, and what are what can we do as a community to start to take down those emissions. So wanted to welcome Ali to the stage. Yeah, this solar is so amazing you don't actually realise you're stepping on solar. Ali, you want to take us through some slides and tell us a bit about Wentworth's emissions and what we can do? Can I give you the microphone?
It's always nerve-wracking talking to people, so apologies if I wave my hands quite a lot. So I'm Ali. I'm delighted to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. Now, some of you might have heard from the Regional Environmental Program Manager in the morning, but he basically talked about where our emissions in the eastern suburbs are coming from. And they're coming from really different parts, but if you have a look at it, they mainly come from electricity use, transport, the way we move around, and food waste, the way we eat, buy food and dispose of it. That's my slide for today. Now, the key element in here is that the different councils, Woollahra, Waverley and Renwick, have a partnership to work together. But one of the things that we have realised throughout the years is that as a council, we cannot do it alone. We really need the community to come on board. So to do that, we started a program called Collaboration for Impact, in which we work with the different councils and also community groups to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The program is all about bringing community groups together to learn from each other, but also to learn from council and what we can do together. And that has been really, really successful in terms of like co-designing and co-implementing initiatives such as our summer program, but also our winter programs. And very exciting, one of my favorite programs is an intergenerational program on climate change that was developed in a partnership with about 7 local community groups. Some of you are here today, so thank you for coming. And the program is about providing a platform for young people as well as seniors to come together, learn from each other, learn from experts, but also work together on identifying localized solutions to climate change. And what these amazing people do, and you will hear from Sylvia and Rosa in a minute, is that they got those solutions and put them out there in the best way of communicating them, which is storytelling. And they did that through videos to bring the community on board with doing things differently. And we had a really big movie screening last Saturday, and what we found is that people came out of it with lots of hope and inspiration. So I guess what I'm trying to say in here is that we really need to work together. Not just the councils, but also communities at different levels. So families, neighbours, different generations. Now, we brought those two generations together because they both felt that because of their age, their ideas about climate change were either dismissed or not taken into account. It's to give them a voice to really be active in participating in decision-making around our area. So my lesson for everyone today is get on board, work together. There is a lot of hope out there, and we can definitely do it if we come together to the table. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and we'll have Ali up later for questions. But I thought it was just worth covering a few things that were Anthony mentioned in the morning session about where we as a community are doing really well in terms of emissions and where we do badly. And I think some of what we as a community struggle with is on solar panels. So solar, we've got much lower solar in this community than we do in other communities, and that is a lot to do with the fact that we have many more units than most communities. So when we're looking at the different levels of government, what to do, we need to deal with the particular issues of Wentworth, which are how do we deal with, how do we help make solar accessible when we have so many strata buildings and we have so many renters who love living in Wentworth. We need to make environmental solutions available to them. I think the other big piece that on the flip side is we're good on EVs. So we're actually, as a community, we're ahead of the curve on EVs. But I think, from this morning, I think a real push came from the community to say, how can we get more EV chargers out in the community, given that so many people live in stratas and they don't have garages. So that's certainly going to be a top priority for me, and I think the different levels of government in the new year about how to get more options out there. I then want to introduce Rosa and Sylvia, who are going to briefly talk about this, the wonderful Power to the Future program, which Ali just alluded to, which is about local students translating ideas and identifying ways to make real change in terms of climate action and the way that you guys have done that. So can you come up, Rosa and Sylvia?
Hello, me and Rosa were part of the program Power to the Future, and we would like to, I'm going to be talking about why I went into the program. Basically, it's because I struggled a lot with actually trying to find the community that really was passionate about climate change, and basically, I went into this program, found so many people as passionate as me about trying to get to net zero, and it just was so inspirational and just kept me going to be able to go into these kind of things. Would you like to say?
Hello, my name is Rosa. I joined Power to the Future because I wanted to do something real to help the environment, and I wanted to take part in fighting for our future. I can't imagine a life without the trees and the birds, and the bees helping to pollinate the strawberries and blueberries in my garden. And where would we be without the fish in the sea? I love walking to school every day with my friend Imka and my sister Thea. But the roads are always busier at school time, and you should see the huge queues of cars outside our school. When I realised lots of kids who live near me drive to school instead of walking, I thought about what a difference to our local environment just a few walks a week would make. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a real community showcase this afternoon. So thank you both for your videos. And where can the community watch those videos? Yeah, maybe perhaps later date. Well, brilliant. So we'll send that out to everybody who has given their email addresses, so we can share those. Next up, I wanted to introduce Lottie Dalziel. who is the founder of Banish, a website that helps Australians reduce their waste with trusted products and reliable information. And she's positively impacting the habits of individuals and organisations. She was recently named 2023 New South Wales Young Australian of the Year for her work educating Australians on how to live more sustainably, and she's going to share some of that wonderful work with us here today. So Lottie, please join me on stage.
Thanks so much, Allegra, and thank you all so much for coming today. I am Lottie Dalziel, the founder of Banish, which is an education platform and an e-commerce store that teaches people how to reduce their waste. I launched this platform 4.5 years ago because I was that person who wanted to do something when it came to the planet, but there was no information on how to start, how to get the right type of sustainable straw. So it sent me down this kind of wild goose chase to find what was the best straw to pop in my smoothie rather than a single-use plastic straw, which has led me to launch Banish, because I found that there was so much greenwashing, so much misinformation, it was so confusing and it was so difficult that the everyday person who wanted to just do that little thing, there wasn't really anything out there for them. So I decided to create that platform, which is Banish. We now talk to over 200,000 Australians every month. We provide them with sustainable information on recycling, on how to, I don't know, make your own beeswax wraps, how to shop more sustainably. So that is what Banish does. And we have also launched the BRAD program, which is the Banish Recycling and Disposal program that helps keep your items from going to the wrong pit. So you send them to the right pit, which is our BRAD pit. So all you need to do is send us your hard to recycle items like blister packs, beauty products, plastic toothbrushes, and then we, with a team of amazing volunteers, some of which are here today, come through and sort them, and then we send them on to Australian recyclers to actually be recycled. We're incentivising this change, and it's been an amazing, quite overwhelming reaction from the Australian community. In 20 months, we've helped 11,500 households divert over 12 tonnes or 150,000 pieces of plastic from entering landfill, which are now able to be recycled onshore. So it's really exciting to be surrounded by so many people who want to do the right thing and are hungry for information. So we're just literally feeding the beast and providing as much information as we can.
That I love the Brad Pitt. That's very, very funny. Tell me, what are your top 3 or 4 tips for any family that's starting out and says, look, we want to, we do kind of perhaps the normal things. What are some of the things that we can do straight away that can make the biggest difference?
So I don't like being prescriptive because everybody's household is different. But if we're talking statistics, I would say starting to compost is a really, really big one, because about 40% of your household bin is made up of organic matter that could go into your compost bin. It would be to try and reduce your meat intake. So maybe going for one day or one meal of that day. So it could be lunches are now going to be meat-free, or we're going to do meat-free Monday. And then it would probably just be single-use plastics. So if you are a coffee drinker, taking that reusable cup or remembering your reusable water bottle. I think they're really easy things, a great way to get started.
Thank you. And are there any sort of myths about recycling? You obviously have really gone into the details. Like how, what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, what other myths should we be aware of and ready to fight back on?
It's a bit tricky. My job has gotten a lot harder lately with the soft plastic recycling crumble, but I think there is a lot that is being recycled onshore in Australia. Australians are some of the best paper recyclers in the world. We recycle about 87% of all paper. So these things are really great and positive to see, but we just need to be stepping away. So you can feel disheartened at the fact that soft plastic recycling is no longer able to be recycled, or it might not have been recycled in the first place. But at the end of the day, recycling is not the answer, reduction is. So rather than being pissed off that the system is broken or being upset, you can then focus on, well, I was relying on that system and it made me feel okay for buying those items that were wrapped in plastic. But let's take a step back and go, well, why were we buying those in the first place?
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and we're going to have some time for questions afterwards, so start thinking of questions for Lottie as well. Next, I'd invite Kit Willow up to the stage. So Kit is a fabulous sustainable fashion designer helping to reshape the Australian fashion industry with ethical models and sustainable fabrics. Her clothes are designed for high-frequency wear with incredible quality and creative design, and are made using materials to minimise harm. I know this is an area of real passion for you, Kit, so I'd love just to hear about how fashion, what the role of fashion is in terms of driving sustainable living.
Allegra. Hi, everyone. I mean, just looking at that pie chart, I'm sorry I don't have slides. Almost 20% of waste or carbon emissions comes from waste. And part of that we all understand is food waste, but the other part is also textile waste. So we are discarding up to 10,500 kilograms of fashion every 10 minutes in Australia, which is second to the US per capita. So we are a huge consumer of fashion and also a huge discarder of fashion. So days like Black Friday, which has just passed, and now Cyber Monday, are encouraging this. And Leeds University in England just reported that 80% of those purchases on Black Friday actually end up in landfills. So it's this culture that we've found ourselves in as a species to accumulate and consume. It's obviously some kind of adrenaline hit, but in doing so, we're also discarding, because our wardrobes are getting bigger, but the need to wear, we can't get changed 10 times a day, nor do we need to. So that waste led me to create the Future from Waste Lab in Melbourne, which is basically taking textile waste and using it as a valuable resource to create new fashion. So all of our denim now is made from discarded denim. So how much denim's in the room, and when it's wholly and you don't love it anymore, where does it end up? It ends up in landfill. So we're collecting the denim and we're washing it and we're cutting it open and then laying our pattern shapes onto the denim and then sewing it as you would any garment. So every single garment, that machining process is the same. It's actually just the material source and the cutting of that, which is more labour intensive, but it's free. And there's no land used and there's no water used and no chemicals, insecticides, pesticides, weaving, energy and transport. It's local waste used as a resource and it's free. So that is, I think, one amazing sort of opportunity is looking at waste as a valuable resource. In doing so, it's diverting it from landfill. When food goes to landfill, when fashion goes to landfill, natural fibre or not, it actually releases methane gases into the atmosphere, which I didn't realise that natural fibres do the same thing, and it's like food. So once again, starting with the problem, consume less, buy better, love longer, repair, reuse, reshare. There's a lot of new rental programs coming out. We've got KITX, which you can, if you don't love your garment any longer or something's changed in your lifestyle that it's not of use anymore, you can exchange it back to us and we will sell it and give back 50% of the sale price as KITX voucher to the consumer. So again, it's recirculating the fashion and rehoming and reloving, and often the garments that are on KITX are just loved by somebody new who's like, I love this so much, this is such an amazing outfit, or they're loving their new purchases, which weren't, the love had waned elsewhere. So that's critical. And then just looking, no virgin nylon or polyester is used. That releases nitrous oxide, which is 300 times more toxic than carbon dioxide, accelerating carbon emissions. So that's a critical sourcing criteria for KITX, but it's also spread that word, because so much of the change that we need is about awareness and getting us to that tipping point. So, look at the care labels, look at what is in any garments that you're going to purchase, and if there is any synthetic fibres, it's like a plastic basically. Don't buy it, because we need to vote with our dollar, and that will in turn start to change companies to do the right thing. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kit, for sharing those. That's brilliant. Well, I think... And again, think of your questions for Kit and for others. Next, we have Nick Pellow, who's a local Bondi resident and an electrification advocate. So earlier in the morning, we talked a lot about electrification, about how to reduce emissions through moving to electricity, and then also making that electricity renewable. He has been through that personal journey of fully electrifying his house, owns an EV and has a strong interest in how technology can help us move towards net zero emissions. So we wanted to ask Nick to share a bit of his own electrification and personal household journey about how he's done this and how we can think about doing this in our own houses. Take it away, Nick.
Thanks so much, Allegra. Small correction here. I'm still on that journey, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Where are we? Here we go. So this is a local study. I'm going to tell you about some things I learned, some things I did really well, and some things I didn't do so well when I did a home renovation about 5 years ago, about the age of this T-shirt, which is about the same era when our government were bringing lumps of coal into Parliament. And I was going through a renovation where I really wanted to do the right thing, and I got a little bit lost, so I'll talk you through some mistakes I made, and I'll show you some of the maths as well as to how the reno turned out in terms of the house. So it's a 4-bedroom. We upgraded to a 4-bedroom semi in Bondi. Humans, we have 2 chickens, and we just got a kitten. We eventually got rooftop solar the year after the renovation. That's one of the first mistakes. I went all in on a Tesla Powerwall at the time. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but that was, I didn't want the lifestyle change. I wanted to go neutral. I wanted to earn some money, and I didn't want to think about the time of day when I'm using energy. So that was a bit of convenience that I went in on. It led to some awesome stuff. It led to me being part of a virtual power plant run by AGL. Tesla does one as well. What does that mean? It means they pay me money. They pay me $15 a month so they can use my battery 30 times a year to stabilise the grid. Pretty simple. Some rough costings. I'm now saving... So we're going to average out over the last year, I'm saving about $150 per month on my power bill than if I hadn't have gone solar. So payoff is about 5 years. It was projected at 7.2 and it's come in at about 5. So here you can see some of the maths, pre-solar, post-solar, pretty obvious. Below the line, folks, is I'm getting money back from AGL. Our home is well off the charts in terms of average usage for similar homes in our area. One of my first tips will be learn to look at your power bill. Where I got confused is what uses energy and what doesn't use energy in the home. So I got really used to reading the power bill, and I think the big companies may do this somewhat deliberately. They don't let us easily find out what is using power in the home. Now, when I went solar, I learnt a lot about what uses energy. I learnt that lights do not matter. I leave my lights on because they use no power. I learnt that an oven will really crank the bill, and so will my AC. There's a few photos of some of the things I got as part of the reno. We have the Powerwall, we have the heat pump AC system, and a condenser dryer. So these things, they actually, some other things I learned, they actually don't just save me money, they make my life better. This does not blow hot air throughout the laundry. Instead, it just condenses the air, and it is a lot more efficient than a normal dryer. I'm going to hang around after this talk. If you want to come and chat to me, please come up and talk to me. You'll find me in the yellow shirt about some more things that I did. Now, a few takeaways here that I want to share, especially for the summit. It's a huge learning curve when you're starting out, so definitely ask friends, come and talk to me. I'm willing to help out. What I realise is that builders and architects really don't get this. They're just not engaged at all. So it was me drawing from these so-called specialists on housing design to try and, get the best product I could. And I didn't get the best product I could because they recommended I put a new gas heater in. And that's what I did. So we've got a gas heater now for the next 10 years until it goes out of warranty. Also, I want council to make it simpler for residents to fall into a pit of success when we do our renovations. They do this already. I've paid $15,000 for a stormwater retention pit so that the beach is clean. When I swim across the beach, it's beautiful. They don't give any guidance at all on the roof pitch of my home, putting solar on, working out EV charges, yet that is what is going to save us in this climate crisis that we're in. So I really want to see some really beefed up standards. We heard this morning, money is not the problem. It is knowledge, okay? We just need to make some simple choices. When we do these expensive things, we can do a lot better in terms of making it very simple for residents to get right, almost mandatory. In fact, sailing yesterday, I had a builder sail up to me, and he's like, why isn't this mandatory? Here we go. That's it. Thank you very much.
I do, before you get off the stage, I just wanted to, a number of you guys would have got this handout, which I think hopefully, talks to some of the things that Nick is talking about, which is about what are the things you can do to electrify your house, because that was pretty much your approach, was to electrify, but you've still been left with gas, is that right?
This was pre-Saul Griffith's book, and I was just in the dark, so to speak, about the right way to do it, as opposed to just being told do these things. Yeah.
So we're trying to start with, to give you this guide to say, look, where are the areas in a normal house that you spend, the most carbon, and what are the costs of reducing, the running costs of reducing those. And I think the big message from Saul's book is, I think, which you mentioned, Nick, is as you're making choices about replacing your hot water system, because your hot water system's coming out, or you're going for that dryer, your dryer's on the last legs, how to make the choice that actually is sustainable, is a sustainable choice next. So this morning people said, get organised and think ahead so that when it comes to making that choice, you're ready for it. It's not about, spending tens of thousands of dollars straight up front to reduce it. It's about making those choices as you do a renovation or all those types of things. Is that your experience, Nick?
That's pretty much it. You're doing a lot of decisions when you're doing a renovation, right? And I don't want this to be a decision. This should just be a lot easier for me and others, I think, that are doing the same, just to get it right the first go, because it is a once-off project, and then you've got it for the next 15 years.
Okay, so yeah, please have a look at this, the handout. Great. Well, thank you, Nick, for that oversight. Then I wanted to ask Andrew Valder, who is another local resident, the co-founder of Garage Sail Trail and Grow It Local, two national initiatives with heart and soul in the community, powering behaviour change. And it was born, Garage Sail Trail was born right here in Bondi back in 2010 in partnership with Waverley Council, and has been since adopted by over 100 local governments across the country. And wrapped up last week, we saw over 250,000 Australians participate in over 15,000 garage sales, with 1.5 million kilograms of stuff kept out of landfill. That is an absolutely incredible initiative, and I'm so excited by people in Wentworth doing things like that. And he's also founded Grow It Local, initiative to get more people growing and eating and sharing locally grown food, also in partnership with Waverley Council. So please come up here, Andrew, and tell us about it.
Thanks, Allegra. Hi, everyone. Completely awesome to be here with you this afternoon. Thanks for taking time out of your Sunday to come and participate, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. I'd also like to acknowledge the excellent work that Allegra Spender and her team is doing here. This is hopefully the beginning of a whole bunch of events like this that happen around the country, where both federal government comes together with state government and together with local government and invites the community to be a part of it. I'm a massive advocate of whilst government's super important to facilitate change at a legislative level, community is really where the rubber hits the road, and it's us as people who can make changes to bring legislation to life or to drive legislation. So good on you for being here. Let me start by seeing if I can operate the clicker. So I'm involved with a small, passionate group of people. We build what we call programs to mobilise communities. And the idea is that we mobilise communities to do things that people understand or people are motivated by, with a view to creating positive social or environmental change. And one of them is the Garage Sale Trail, and I'm really proud to be able to say that, you know, in a program born here in Bondi, in partnership actually with Waverley Council back in 2010, is now the biggest national community and sustainability event in the country. And it happened last weekend, and 2 weekends ago, it just finished. But I think I want to tell you a story. The reason I'm here today, I think, is a really great example of why just participating in your community, however it is really important. So it was Sunday after the first weekend of Garage Sale Trail. I was a complete and utter head case. And I was walking from my place up the road towards Charing Cross to have breakfast, and there was this garage sale set up on the corner, and I started talking. There was a super cool kid who was really doing all this thing and selling a bunch of stuff, and then I got talking to his mum, and his mum was involved in the Allegra Spender team, and here I am today. And the point of my story is that those guys were doing it, making stuff happen. I happen just to be out in the community, but it's all about these, you know, change happens through the community coming together in whatever shape or form it is, like we are here today. So Garage Sale Trail's just taken place. Garage sales are really simple, easily understood things, but behind it there's a more important message. So we exist to encourage Australians to extend the life of their stuff and extract what's called the maximum value of those resources from each and every item that they own. And we do that because as a planet, we're using more resources than we have. And why that's really important is, the subject of this day is about the move to net zero. 45% of carbon emissions come from making, transporting, consuming, and then disposing of stuff. So if we can extend the life of our stuff in whatever way, shape or form, whether it be a garage sale, shopping, buying and selling on Gumtree, whatever, it doesn't really matter. That's one great way that we can lower our carbon emissions. As I said, it started in Bondi Beach in 2010 in partnership with Waverley Council, and that's a picture of a garage sale, I think somewhere in Glen Eyre. It's called Stu's Disco Sale. We kind of say we love to tackle serious issues in fun ways, and we use that slide to do it. And fast forward 12 years, and there's a whole 100 plus councils, a whole lot of people do it. There's millions of items listed for sale each year. 15,000 odd garage sales just the last weekend. Lots of stuff diverted from landfill, but really importantly, it's a behaviour change program. So when you participate in something, you learn, it affects you in some way, shape or form. So 25% of people who get involved in Garage Sale Trail tell us that they'll now buy second-hand over new. And I'm not here to say you should buy everything second-hand, because that's not real. But if you can start thinking about what you consume and how you consume it, you can make a really big difference. And as I said, finally, on Garage Sale Trail, it's all about, we believe sustainability is best when it's fun and social, and here's a bunch of people doing it and having a good time and kind of spreading the word and normalising the fact that it's okay to buy and sell second-hand. The second thing I want to talk to you about is grow it local. And it's another thing that, lots of people grow food. Just like you don't need Garage Sale Trail to have a garage sale, you don't need grow it local to grow food, but we're about building communities of people who are in it together. And so this is about backyard, balcony, windowsill farmers. However much or little space you have, you can get involved. And whatever your skill level is, you can get involved. And what we'll do, and our mission in life is to get more people growing, sharing and eating locally grown food. And what we'll do is hold your hand and make it easier. So you can sign up to this program. It's a year-round program. It's free to join. And a whole bunch of great people like local Costa Georgiadis, Paul West, Ronnie Khan, a whole bunch of people will hold your hand on how to grow food. And why we do this is growing food is kind of a radical climate act. So over the last 10 or so years, we've got super awesome at building relationships with these. I know I have. I hate to think what my daily hours is on that. But that's come at the expense of being outside, that's come at the expense of interacting with other humans, and we're losing our connection to nature. So growing food, no matter how you do it, whether it's on a windowsill or in a pot, is a way that you can reconnect with nature. And I think Lottie spoke before about composting as a way where you can really move the needle in your household. And people who grow food are 4 to 5 times more likely to compost or worm farm. And why that's so important is it takes food out of the waste stream, and methane, which is one of the nasty things affecting the atmosphere. But then there's the stuff like reduced plastics, food miles, but you start thinking about food provenance. So it's a really powerful, simple thing that everyone can do no matter what your setup is. I'm in an apartment and I grow food in my south-facing balcony. So there's 20,000 people doing it. Encourage you to join. It's free. Thanks for listening.
So much, Andrew. And my last speaker is Renuka Fernando. She's one of the co-founders, another fabulous local, co-founder of Relove, which is a registered charity supporting women and children impacted by domestic violence, people experiencing homelessness, Indigenous youth, and families and people seeking asylum. And they do this, Relove does this by providing good quality rescued furniture and household items at no cost direct to families in crisis. And on average, they support over 15 families a week. Absolutely lovely to have you here, Renuka. Please take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Gee, you guys were really good speakers. I'm slightly daunted. But, we are very much an accidental charity. We're the new kids on the block in this circular economy space. During the first COVID lockdown, my co-founder over here, Ben, and I we were just trying to mobilise our community with running different projects, which we were focused on practical ways of giving back. We came across a really urgent need and somewhat of a silent crisis in our society where we were working at the time with the Women and Girls Emergency Centre, and we'd been out to one of the women's refuges and realised that the refuge was full. And COVID was a really difficult time. Women could actually access safe housing. Still, they could be moved on. It was really difficult. There was no doubt about that. But actually, how could you set a woman up in a home? All the big guys had shut their doors. And at the same time, we were looking around, and I live in Bronte, and Ben lives over in the North Shore, and people were COVID spring cleaning, and we live in an affluent area, and what does that mean? That we don't really hold much care about our stuff, and so we were literally at an unbelievable rate getting stuff out onto the sidewalk. And I'm originally an architect trained in sustainability. A lot of this stuff is my wheelhouse, and so I was looking around and going, well, this is a bit ridiculous. These are pretty simple. Let's put 2 and 2 together. And so we borrowed a little bit of warehouse. My husband's in construction. Luckily, he had a tiny bit of warehouse. And we said, we're just going to be here for 2 to 4 weeks, and we're going to try and get 5 women out of the refuge. And we called on, talking about mobilising community, we called on our friends and our family and said, get the stuff to us, and we're going to try and help 5 women move home. And what that started very, very quickly in the first 2 months, we relocated 50 families. So, Ben and I, over the last 2.5 years, we've now relocated about 1,000 families. And the solutions actually become very simple, and it is an environmental solution. So whilst at the beginning of COVID, Ben and I were hiring a pop van ourselves. It only costs $50. If you've got furniture and you need to get it to us, hire a van, get it to us, we can relocate it. We're volunteers. Our whole organisation is run by volunteers. But really, we were driving around and picking up furniture and getting it out to people. Every week at the moment, we're relocating about 15 families with a whole household of furniture. But really what's actually happened, as all simple ideas are, we have just tapped into what is it's actually another huge environmental problem in our society, which is what do we do with our furniture waste? So, we have got corporate relocations. The way we work has changed. So we are working with organisations like the Commonwealth Bank, Macquarie Bank, Reserve Bank of Australia, AMP, you name it, Federal Court of Australia. You know, if you're moving office, there's a lot of great quality furniture, and it's commercial grade, and it's perfect to go into social housing. All of that breakout furniture, it's excellent and will last a really long time. And the other source that we're getting a huge amount of furniture from is from hotel defits. And if you think about a hotel room, absolutely anything in a hotel room, from the art on the wall to the kettle to the toaster to the plates and the glasses. You know, the bed bases, generally the mattresses are pretty gross by then, but, you know, we can take all of that and, you know, that's a pretty huge solution. And then the other thing that we've really tapped into is, and this is actually really to do a lot with consumerism, is that we're buying too much stuff. Right, so you buy stuff, and if you've gone and bought a mattress from, say, someone like Koala, and you've popped it onto your bed and you've rested on it overnight, and you've thought, well, that wasn't very comfortable, so you return it. So what happens to that stuff? So there is a huge amount of stuff that is near new. You know, you might buy something like a sofa from, say, Fantastic Furniture, and it gets delivered to you, and it's got a tiny, tiny pull. And you say, well, it's brand new. That's not good enough for me. So you return it. What happens to that stuff? Oh, and environmentally, just one more thing. Pretty much every year we're about 1,000 families. We're about to launch our 1,000 Homes campaign for next year. Last year we saved about just over 2,000 tonnes of furniture out of landfill.
Thanks. Talk about inspiring people in Wentworth. Look, we've got about 10 minutes left of this panel, and we've had some absolutely incredible speakers. So just want to see if anyone had any questions for any of them. Come here. Now you reminders. Surely someone's got a question for one of us. Yes. Just. Okay, excellent. So, great question. So, do you want to talk? Is this to any of the panelists? Sorry, is that to any of the panelists?
I won't hog it, but just seriously, we need volunteers, skilled volunteers. We need people. We need more people to be helping us out. So, just get in contact.
How about you?
I think I'll probably just talk for the whole rest of the panel because it's a bit quicker. But I think for everybody, sustainability means so many different things in this room. So just do that thing that means something to you. Don't go out of your way to start composting if you hate it. Maybe then start reducing your fashion waste. Like, just do something that means something to you because you're going to keep on doing it.
And how can they get involved with your organisation?
Head to banish.com.au. We also want volunteers as well. Sorry.
I'm going to just reiterate what Lottie said. It doesn't matter. There's a whole bunch of options here, which is, I guess, why we're here. So whatever floats your boat, but it's just about doing something.
Exactly. Okay, brilliant. Great. I think it's a great question. I'm going to give you my view, which is part of it is this is about everyone mobilising with their own communities. We're all connected to school communities, surf clubs or whatever those are, and I think that's about how do we as individuals just talk to the people in our communities. We've got that handout, and one of the commitments we made, as of myself and the other people from government made this morning, was to try and provide more how-to guides that the community can access and that give sort of clear pointers. So that would be my first point, is that, the greatest, you're the best advocate, much better than someone like me because, I'm a politician. But if your friends tell you good things to do and you share, some of the wonderful ideas here, say, oh, hey, I'm going to do a garage sale. Who else wants to do one with me that weekend? I think that's a great place to start. Do other people have any comments on this one?
We actually had a session with one of the farmers of the year, the young people, and she funded Farmers for Climate Action. And she explained that she had a really challenging audience. But the key points were never be judgmental of other people's way of thinking. Like, really take the time to listen, which as human beings, maybe we don't. We just want to jump in and like sort of like say, oh, no, you need to think this way. She was like, really, really pay attention and just like slowly start talking to different people within your community. Involving people, there are going to be always people that are not want to be involved, no matter what you do. So just concentrate on the people that are sitting on the fence, because those are the people that you have a better chance to get in.
Our things are based, there's this academic term about social-based marketing theory and da-da-da-da-da, which is kind of jargon for if you do it and tell people about it and either put it on social media or have a conversation, it normalises the activity for people. And the more people who then are normalising the activity, the more normal it becomes. So, whether it's about fashion or your waste or your air conditioning or your home renovations, it's about normalising that.
I mean, yes, the only thing, when I was lucky enough to go to Heron Island with Tim Flannery from the Climate Council, and he gave a small group a health check on Mother Earth, and it was quite frightening what he was saying with the key indicators. And I said, we need to call the emergency siren here, because we need to activate and mobilise change so quickly. How do we do this? We need to this is, if we don't go net zero by 2030, these are the ramifications. And he said, we're capable of this because we're an intelligent enough species to do it, and the only way that the strongest trait that we have as a human species on Earth is word of mouth. And, that is, I think, I just always come back to that, and why I'm here today, and thank you, Allegra, is just, tell 10 people at a barbecue, just educate, and if you don't know, you don't care, and if you don't care, you don't do anything. So, and talking to people who are sort of more challenged with the idea is actually really healthy, and, presenting facts and just talking about it openly and spreading the message is sort of critical. So thank you all for coming and spread it.
So I'm all about walking to school. So how I would get people to walk to school with me is I would ask them, do you want to walk to school today with me? And we can walk to school together, and then we can walk back from school again. And then we can make it a habit, and then we'll get more people to join, and then, yeah.
It's a beautiful message. And lastly, something actually Susan Wynne, the Mayor of Woollahra, said to me. She said, look, not everyone's engaged on climate, but a lot of people are engaged on the environment, particularly the beautiful local area that we live in. And so I think it's a good one, because obviously I care deeply about climate, but I think most people you can engage about your clean waterways, your parks. So there may be different ways of saying, well, we don't want plastic to end up in the ocean. Let's not talk about climate. Let's talk about, looking after our beaches. So sometimes it isn't. Don't all come from the same perspective, but let's work with, what we have. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to these wonderful panellists and for inspiring us about what local people are doing on climate action. And please hang around this afternoon. Tell us what your ideas are for Wentworth Net Zero, and also what you want to see your different levels of government doing to do that. And we also have solar light making at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and rickshaws? Trishaws. The tricycles, if you haven't been out to the Bike East people, they're giving people rides. My sister and I had a ride earlier on the electric bike, trishaw, which was great fun. They're a beautiful organisation helping set cycling to be accessible to all. So great, lots of things to do this afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining.